Hey guys, coming at you with some keys to success with in Cutco and your fast start. And the first most important key to success is having a schedule for success. And so there's a couple of things that I want to talk about how to make sure that you're maximizing your schedule during your first 10 days. And some of this stuff can be applied no matter what stage in your career you are with Cutco. But first things first, having schedules set up properly. And what I mean by that is taking an ABC method to getting your schedule booked up the way you want. And when I think about the first A being your prior obligation, so making sure that you have things that are already in your schedule, set in stone, things that are necessary for your week, those are already put in. So what are your prior obligations? What does that mean? Well, for us, as far as Cutco goes, it's just the team meetings and meetings that are already in place. So you got your team meeting Wednesday from 6 to 9:30, and your paycheck at some point on Sunday between 5 and 9, making sure that you block off a 2-hour window on Sunday for that. So put that in first. So put in your meetings that you have with us, put that in, put in any doctor's appointments, put in any school hours that you have, put in any other job hours that you have, put in church, what days you go to church, put that in there. But anything that's already kind of already set in stone, things that don't vary on a weekly basis, put that stuff in first. The reason why we want you to put that in first is we never want you to miss things that are important to your livelihood, important to your being. I never want you to blame Cutco for not getting done what you want out of life. And I never want you to blame other things that are important in your life for not getting out of Cutco what you want to get out of it. So the whole idea, guys, is that you're well-rounded and you're getting things out of every area of your life, you're succeeding. Okay, so put your prior obligations in first. The second thing that you want to make sure you put in is your phone time. And the reason phone time needs to be second and not your possible appointments is you can't get appointments without having your phone time. So you want to put your phone calls in your plan. If you're calling people you know well, the ratio is usually 4 calls for every 1 appointment you want to make. So I typically recommend making 20 calls a day if you want to do 4 appointments a day. If you want to do 2 appointments a day, you need to make about 10 calls a day just to be consistent. To get your schedule filled. So the best time to make phone calls is going to be Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. You're reaching people as their day is getting rolling. You're able to book them up before their first appointment or their first meeting that they have. I found that for people that are adults, morning times are some of the happiest they are all day because they've slept the most that they're going to be able to sleep for the day. They're not taking naps. They're well rested. They've had their morning coffee. They tend to be in good moods. Frank Sinatra has a quote. He said, "I feel sorry for people that don't drink because when they wake up, that's the happiest they feel all day." Boom, there you go. So let's listen to old Blue Eyes and make morning phone calls. Those are awesome times, Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. Other times that are amazing times to make phone calls, Sunday through Thursday between 6:30 and 9:30 p.m. Okay, those are great times. Why? Because it's after most people's work week. Now, again, everybody has a little bit different schedule. You may call people that they work till 7, and that's fine. But if you're making calls in the evening between about 6:30 and 9:30, it's a great time to get a hold of people. So the times that we have our normal meetings are Wednesday and Sunday. So it coincides perfectly with the best time to get a hold of people. And as a reminder, every time you'll come to the office, we'll do 3 things. We'll help you get your schedule booked up, we'll teach you something, and we'll help you out with any contests that are going on. So as far as helping you get your schedule filled up, that's why we have you come in at some of those most critical times of the week to get a hold of people to fill up your schedule. So you put your phone time in. So Monday through Friday, 8 to 9:30 a.m., Sunday through Thursday, 6:30 to 9:30 are great. And then if you're going to make calls on Saturday late morning, I found about like 9 to 11 is also a good 2-hour window to make calls to keep your schedule filled. So put your phone time in next. And then the third thing that you want to put in, the C of the ABC, are your possible appointments. And when I think about possible appointments, the best way to break it up is if you're looking to work part-time during the summer. Part-time, guys, we consider 2 appointments a day, 2 to 3 appointments a day. Full-time, we consider 4 to 5 appointments a day or more, right? So if you're working part-time during the summer, that's 10 to 15 appointments a week with a minimum of 7. Full-time is 15 to 20 appointments a week, even up to 30 if you really want to go full out, right? During the non-summer, and with school being full and full-time in session, maybe you've got another gig. Part-time for people that are in school is 3 to 5 appointments a week, with a minimum of 3, just so that way you're keeping consistent. And then full-time for people that are in school full-time is 7 to 10 appointments a week. So based on your situation, structure your schedule accordingly. What I will recommend for those of you in your fast start, especially if you've got more of a free schedule, embody the approach of doing 4 and setting 4. If you're trying to do 10 to 15K in your fast start, do 4 appointments a day, set 4 appointments a day. If you're wanting to go more part-time during your fast start, do 2 appointments a day and set 2 appointments a day. But if you create that schedule and you keep consistent during your fast start, you're going to have a great fast start. What we recommend, by the way, is if you're doing 2 and setting 2 a day, you're probably going to complete about 20 appointments in your fast start, which means you're going to set yourself up with an outside shot of doing 10, but probably be in the position of doing between $3,000 and $5,000 in your fast start. So a strong fast start. If you're doing 4 and setting 4 appointments a day, you're going to do 10K, and you're going to be, somewhere in the range of 6 to 15, depending on how big you take it and how many days you're consistently doing 4 and setting 4. So doing 2, setting 2, doing 4, setting 4 during your fast start to really set yourself up for success with your sales. And after your fast start, guys, if you want to settle into a routine that's more like doing 2 and setting 2, I know your manager and I would both be totally cool with that. So making sure your phone time is in place and then putting your possible appointments in place. Now, if you're in a position where you want to do, 4 appointments a day, but there's certain days where you just can't do it, well, then just rotate one of those appointments that you miss and put it on another day. For example, maybe you can only do 2 appointments on a Friday instead of the 4. Well, just move 5 to do 5 on Saturday, 5 on Sunday, and you're right back on that pace that you need to be at. Okay? That's a key to be successful and to hit your goals for your fast start. So ABC method, that's the first thing that's really important for having a schedule for success. The second thing is calling in the right order. Okay, and what do I mean by calling in the right order? Well, we've found, guys, that when you call people in the right order, it allows you to maximize your effectiveness on the phone. Here's something I would jot down. For every 4 people really well that you call, you'll get 1 appointment. Okay. You've also got another category we're going to talk about, which are your connections and recommendations that you sort of kind of know. For those people, it's usually 7 for every 1, right? Meaning that for every 7 calls you make, you'll book 1 appointment. Okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It just means that they don't usually pick up as frequently. And then for recommendations you don't know at all, what we say the metric to use there is 10 calls equals 1 appointment. So what I found, guys, is people that you know versus people that you don't know, there's not a group of individuals that buy more than another. There's 0 evidence that I've seen that shows that if you know somebody really well, they'll buy more from you versus if you don't know them at all. But what I will say is people that you know really well are more likely to pick up the phone, and they're also more likely to book up with you. So maximize your efficiency. And one of my tips that I give new representatives in my office is focus on doing 50 practice appointments. Whether you do 50 practice appointments during your fast start or 50 practice appointments during your first 2 months, it doesn't matter to me, but focus on doing at least 50 practice appointments before you start calling recommendations. Because what that will enable you to do is get really good at the presentation. It'll allow you to stack your recommendations so that you have 250 to 500 people to call. Because if you have that, you're going to be in a position to have more people to see than you'll ever be able to see. Okay, so that's kind of the metric that we're working with, or the framework that we're working with. People you know really well are going to book up 4-to-1. People you sort of kind of know are going to be 7-to-1, and the people you don't know at all, recommendations are going to be like 10-to-1. Okay, not good, not bad, just normal. Okay, so let's talk about the appropriate call order now that we've got, kind of that framework. So the first people that you want to start by calling, and I would write this down, are your reschedules. So you want to start by calling your reschedules first. Okay, those are people that you have booked up, and for whatever reason they rescheduled on. Maybe you ran behind on your presentation and you need to reschedule with them. But you always start with your reschedules first. Then the next group that you're going to call are going to be your callbacks. And those are people that when you reached out to them, they told you to call them back. Pretty simple. And I'll talk about the approach used here in a second. And then the third group are going to be your initial list, people that you already brought into training with you, people that you know really well, people you already have the phone number for just sitting in your phone, people that when you wrote down the names list in training, you had them on page 13 and you just have them. And so what I would do is let's take a look at your leaders guide. Let's take a look at your manual. And I want you to go through and look at your massive list that you did on the names list assignment. And look at the massive list you did on page 13. And I want you to put stars by anybody that you have not seen yet, or that you've not called yet to book up an appointment, or you've not done an appointment with. Okay. So take a minute, go through and put a star by all that. Your managers, if you need to pause it, you can pause it so that people can go through and put a star by anybody they haven't seen yet and count that up. Okay. Now, once you've done that, you should realize that you've got tons of people that you still need to get in touch with to book up. Now, when you call the reschedules, you call the callbacks, and you call the initial list, make sure you're using that initial approach that we taught you in training. You don't want to adjust that. Okay, what I mean by that is don't just be like, hey, you remember how I called you? No. What you want to do when you call the reschedules, okay? In future, by the way, when you call and somebody reschedules with you, instead of just saying, sure, we'll coordinate later, just say, hey, I've got my planner in front of me. Let me open up to that page and I can put you in the book so that way I still keep my schedule full. And usually they'll respect your professionalism and they'll reschedule with a specific time. If they're still like, no, we need to call back, blah, 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 put it in your court. Say, okay, when is a better time for me to call you back to reschedule with you? Perfect. Then when you do call them back, here's what you're going to say. Hey, Ms. Jones, I know we spoke the other day, but I just want to remind you the reason I'm calling is I got this new job. And then you go right back into your approach. The reason you want to stick to that approach is it creates urgency. It shows the importance, and it gives 2 times. So that way you're on the right track of booking it in a timely fashion while you're on the phone with them. Same thing with your callbacks, right? Hey, I know I spoke to you the other day, but I just want to remind you the reason I'm calling is I just got this great new job. And then you go right back into the approach. And then, of course, if you've never called them and you have their number, well, just use the regular approach there too. Okay, so those are the first 3 groups of people you're going to be calling. The next group are going to be your out-of-towners, and those are going to be people that you know, but they just live out of town. And with them, I would use the same approach, that same phone approach that you were taught in training. The only thing you want to adjust is instead of saying, I want to know if I can stop by, you just say, I want to know if I can video chat you, or I want to know if I can FaceTime you at this time or this time be better. You just need to be in front of your laptop. And that's the only thing you do differently when you're seeing people that you don't know, or sorry, people that you do know that happen to live out of town. Your managers can walk you through how to do the online appointment, but that is the basic gist, is the exact same approach, but instead of saying, I want to know if I could stop by, you say, I want to know if I could FaceTime you at this time or this time be better. Or if you use Skype, I want to know if I could Skype you, or if you use Zoom, I want to know if I could video conference you at this time or this time be better. Okay, most people use FaceTime. Just have them hop on FaceTime and pull up their laptop. You'll be able to walk them through the presentation, boom, just like that. Okay, those are the first 4 groups of people that you have. So before you rush into recommendations, you already have 4 groups of people that you can call. Now the next group This is going to be a group that's going to take a little bit of brainstorming with, but I think it's probably the most important group. These are the people that I did appointments with probably from after my fast start to my second, pretty much the rest of my summer, going into maybe the last week or two of my summer when I was a brand new representative. So about a month of appointments or so was done with this group right here. And this group is called Connections. And I want to take a few minutes with you to help you brainstorm a massive connections list, because these are the people that you sort of kind of know. These are the people that you may call them your chicken list, which are people that you know, but you're just too scared and nervous to call them with the regular approach. Does anybody have people like that? I know I had people like that. These are like people that I went to school with, but I never met their parents. These were people that lived in my neighborhood, but I didn't know what they looked like. These are people that like I went to church with, but I didn't really know them at all. These are people that some of them I actually knew and had the number for. I was just nervous to call using the regular approach because I felt awkward or weird calling them. And here's what I will say, guys. These appointments, these connections, this next group, these are some of the best people to do appointments with because they know you, but they don't know you well enough to give you a hard time. Okay. And the other thing, the way that I figured this is if I didn't call them to do an appointment with them, the likelihood of me calling or seeing them was pretty slim to none anyway. So I figured I owed it to at least give them a shout. If I hadn't talked to them in 5 years, I hadn't seen them in 5 years, what the heck? Why not? Because if I didn't see him in 5 years, unless I reached out to him to do an appointment with him, I probably wasn't going to see him in another 5 years. And the way that I figured was the worst thing that would happen if I called him is they would say no. Later on, I realized the worst thing that could possibly happen was that if I didn't call him, somebody else probably was going to eventually call him and do an appointment with him. And I had that happen to me in a bad way where I didn't call somebody. I didn't call one of my neighbors because I didn't think she liked me. And come to find out a couple weeks later, another representative on the team went over and did an appointment with her and ended up selling her a Galley +6. That was an easy order that I could have had I just made a phone call, and so this connections group, this is some of the best people. So let's talk about what falls into connections. And I would jot these categories down, and then managers, let's give your people some time to really build a big list. In fact, the goal is to help you create an additional 50 to 100 people you could show Cutco to if you wanted to. So let's go ahead and start talking about some of these categories. So the first category is your neighbors. Okay. And so think about your neighborhood. Think about your old neighborhood. How many houses are in your neighborhood? If you're unsure of how many people actually live in your neighborhood, there's 2 resources for you that I'm going to mention that can help you to brainstorm this. One is called whitepages.com. And if you go to whitepages.com, you can literally go into reverse address, type in your name, or type in your home address and click find neighbors, and it will pull up all of the neighbors that live in your neighborhood, or at least all the neighbors that live in your street. If you live in a massive neighborhood, it'll actually show you 99 of them. Okay, so that's 99 potential people you could show Cutco to. And I'm not saying you know these people really well, but we actually have a phone approach for these connections that you can use that will help you keep your skit, that will work really well. Lets them know why you're calling, and also allows you to be able to book up. So whitepages.com is one. The other app that you can use, or the other website, is Nextdoor. Okay, Nextdoor.com is another resource for you to be able to connect with people that live in your local community to be able to do appointments with. So your managers can do a little bit more research with you on that and help you to be able to identify additional people. But Neighbors is a good resource. So write down the neighbors that you know well. And then let's, at some point later on in your fast start, let's take the time to use whitepages.com or nextdoor.com. Now, some of you guys are even more fortunate, meaning you have a neighborhood directory. Well, if you have a neighborhood directory, it makes it that much easier for you. The next group of connections, and this is a massive one, are people that you go to school with. And so I want you to think about how many people are in your graduating class. Or were in your graduating class, I guess I should say. How many people were in your graduating class? Okay. What about the grade above you, the grade below you? I will tell you, some of my best appointments my first summer were people that I went to school with, but they were a grade or 2 below me. And I didn't really know them that well, but I knew of their kid, and so it made for an easy way to build rapport and to connect. And it was great because we had the connection of going to the same school. So we were able to talk about some of the professors because their kids were younger than me. I was able to talk to them about which professors to take, which professors to stay away from. And it led to a lot of great appointments. Now, some of you guys go to bigger schools, and if you go to a bigger school, well, that presents hundreds of potential people you could do an appointment with. Where literally all you do when you call the mom is say, "Hey, hey, Miss Jones, I don't know my name's Bell, but I actually go to school with your son, William. How are you?" Right? Leads to an easy conversation, be able to book it up. Now, maybe you didn't go to a big school. Maybe you only graduated with like 30, 40, 50, 100 people, something like that. Well, here's what's cool. If you get the smaller the school, the closer the community, meaning the more likely you are to know of the parent and the more likely you are to know their son or daughter decently. Okay. And so if you go to a small school, it's a tighter knit community, easier to do appointments. Okay. Because, they're easier to book up, I guess I should say. If you go to a larger school with a larger community, there's more opportunities for appointments. So there's pros of both, but in either situation, write down how many people are in your graduating class. Write down how many people were in the grade above you and the grade below you. So school presents a massive connection group. The next group, okay, that's big, is any sports or organizations that you were a part of. Okay, think of sports and organizations. So this could be, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. This could be you're part of theater. It could be part of student government. You could be part of a club at your school. It could be fraternities and sororities. So write down how many members you have of that. If you played a sport, think about all the teams that you played on and all the teammates you had. For example, for me, I played basketball and soccer growing up. Well, not only did I have people from my regular high school soccer team, I had people from my travel soccer team. I had people that played JV when I played varsity. Here's what's cool. If people play JV, they tended to know people that were on varsity. I know when I played JV basketball my freshman year, I knew all the varsity players that were on the varsity basketball team. So, again, soccer, it was travel, it was varsity, it was JV people, it was people that I knew from my school teams. Basketball, same thing. I put down people I knew from AAU. I put down people that I knew from when I played varsity basketball. I knew people that were on the JV team. There are people that I played JV with that didn't make it to varsity, and so they stopped playing basketball when they went into their sophomore or junior year. So write down all those people that you had sports or clubs with. That could be a big resource for you. It could be potential for 50 to 100. For some of you play football or competitive cheer where you had big teams, that could be 30, 40, 50, or even more teammates, parents that you could do appointments with. The next group, and this is another huge one, church people, people from church or temple. Okay. If you have a church or temple directory, that could be, hundreds, if not thousands of potential additional appointments for you. Okay. But write that down. How many members do you have that are part of that? Here's another group, mom and dad's coworkers. Mom and dad's coworkers. Put down all mom and dad's coworkers. If you don't know, just write mom and dad's coworkers. Find out from them how many they have. Here's another one, brothers and sisters friends. One of my best appointments, my first summer as a representative, was my little brother's ex-girlfriend's mom. She told me twice over the phone, and once when I got there, she wasn't going to get anything. She ended up getting a homemaker set plus some additional specialty knives plus a couple of accessories, and gave me 10 baller recommendations. And what was the most impressive part of the whole presentation was at the end, she says, "You know what? You're nothing like your brother. I'm so glad we got a chance to meet." And I don't know if that says bad things about my bro or if it just, made my family name look a little bit better. But in either situation, it led to a great appointment, which led to a bunch of additional sales, probably contributed to about 3,000 or 4,000 CPO my first summer for me. Okay, so so that is that next group is connections. Okay, then the last two groups that we've got are going to be your recommendations. And the first group, you want to split them up, are recommendations you know. And then the last group is recommendations you don't know. And so for For recommendations, you can kind of treat them like a connection, meaning you have a good connection with them, and you can use the phone approach that we teach for connections called the acquaintance approach. And your managers can show you that approach to use as well. And then the last group, guys, is going to be your recommendations. And your recommendations are people that you know of, or sorry, you don't know at all, but you know the person that recommended them, right? Or you've done an appointment with the person that recommended. Hold off on calling those, because as a reminder, the framework is as such. For reschedules, callbacks, people from your initial list and your out-of-towners, those are like 4 to 1. For every 4 phone calls you make, you should be able to book 1 appointment. For your connections and your recommendations you sort of kind of know, those will be 7 to 1. And for your recommendations you don't know at all, those are going to be 10 to 1. Okay, so so making calls in the right order is really critical to having a schedule for success. And then if you really want to take things higher during your fast start, I'm going to highly recommend you participate as part of our Champions Club. And that's going to be another one of our keys to success, which is office and manager contact.